Yo, what's going on, guys? Off-season recap for the Brooklyn Nets. We'll be back with our previews and predictions at the end of the month. Now, before we start today's video, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you guys expect the Cam Thomas situation to play out? And besides that, what do you think of this offseason? We'll touch on everything, and let's get right into it. For more content like this, subscribe. It'll help out the channel a ton. And comment. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. So, what do we know or expect at this point from the Brooklyn Nets, who their offseason? What did they do? They brought back Deron Sharp, Zaire Williams, both on 2-year deals, according to ESPN. And that's what they needed to do. That's a deal that I think, if you look at the situation, they wanted to bring back these boys. Which for a lot of people, I think they were all like, oh, D'Angelo Russell was a given that he was going to stay, and then he went to Dallas. And I just think the second go around with Mr. D'Angelo Russell wasn't the same as the first, and Zaire Williams had his moments with this team being kind of like a Swiss Army knife, utilitarian type player. Deron Sharp's a rebounding freak whose first couple years didn't get really an opportunity, and I think they wanted to keep him because this allows them to move on from Nick Claxton eventually. And nothing against Nick Claxton. I absolutely love Nick Claxton. But Nick Claxton is someone who doesn't fit the timeline of this team, even though he is extended. And they probably will benefit by trading him more so than keeping him on the roster. So with that being said, they were featured in the Kristaps Porzingis trade. And as a result, they were compensated for taking on salary, being Terrence Mann, who's someone that they could probably flip, as it's not that his value needs to be rebuilt, but he is a specific type of player that a team, if they need some secondary ball handling, defense, and complementary scoring as a floor spacer, or someone who will do off-ball cutting and other things like that that can play the 2 or 3 or even some spotlight 1 or moonlight 1, then of course that'll be someone that they look at. Now, Michael Porter Jr. was the package, or part of the package that they received from the Denver Nuggets for Cam Johnson. And hey, Michael Porter Jr. might be someone who ends up leading the NBA in scoring this year. This is someone who's actually the number 1 recruit, potential number 1 pick, has had back problems. Granted, what is it, Curious Mike? That is a weird podcast. Nothing wrong with it, okay? Now, I actually really like what they did on draft night. And what was that? As for some reason, this is just all looks terrible. But Egor, Demin, Nolan Traoré, Ben Seraph, Drake Powell, and Danny Wolf were the 5 first-round picks that they took. So 3 guards in Traoré, Demin, and Ben Seraph. Even though Ben Seraph and Egor could play multiple positions, Traoré's more like stuck into being a pure guard. Drake Powell can play the 3, the 2, maybe down the road some spotlight 4, and Danny Wolf is a switch big. So Cam Johnson was traded away. They got themselves a first-round pick in Michael Porter Jr. for that. They let D'Angelo Russell walk to the Mavericks in free agency. They just didn't want to pay him what he ended up getting paid there, which is like only like 2 years. I think, what, 12 million, 14, 11 million dollars. Trendon Watford ended up signing a small deal with the Sixers to be their backup depth player, which is fine. They needed someone like him. But no, these aren't the guys who left to come to Brooklyn. No, these guys who left Brooklyn. One of them got traded, 2 left in free agency. So their core salaries, or the biggest salaries that you should be paying attention to, they have a total payroll right now of $126.3 million, and Michael Porter Jr. makes up the biggest amount of that, $38.3 million. Nicholas Claxton makes $26.4, and that's why I think if they can move Nick Claxton, for the longest time it seemed like the Pelicans could still be interested down the road, but they have Yves Messi, they have Derek Queen now, and they don't really have the contracts that you would want to use to trade. But for the longest time, they were the open secret that wanted them or wanted Nick Claxton. The Lakers could be a dark horse if DeAndre Ayton and company doesn't work. That would probably have to involve a deal like a Maxi Cleveland, Gabe Vincent package. And again, that's just difficult for them. Maybe a Brooklyn Nets deal comes around where they want to move Vucevic just so they don't leave uncompensated, and maybe they use that salary and a pick to get Claxton because they want some more defense. Then Deron Sharp and Zaire Williams makes up the other salary behind Egor Demin, who, him being such a top pick, actually puts them that high in the payroll. And then Terrence Mann's another salary of $15 million that they have to work through, but pretty solid group. Now, if you see where they are with the luxury tax, 187.9 million is where the luxury tax starts. Their payroll's at 126.3. I think they're chilling. Now, 195.9 million is the first apron. They're almost $70 million below that, and $81.4 million below the second apron. Luxury tax, repeater tax, aprons are not a fear or something that Nets fans have to worry about. Clearly, Sean Marks was trying to keep that out. Now, Cam Thomas is the biggest story here. He's been offered, 2 years between $20 to $32 million or a balloon 1 year deal. So it seems like it's a 2 year, $28 million deal because the average I saw was like $14 million. He's being reported as being offered, and then one large deal, which could be a $30 million or $20 million deal. As you see, the report offer is equal to or less than 2 years, $14 million and average annual value. And Cam Thomas believes he's on the Emmanuel Quickly, Tyler Hero, RJ Barrett level. And I actually went to school, grew up 15 minutes away from Emmanuel Quickly, been able to talk to Tyler Hero. I actually know Tyler Hero's like best friend, social media guy through covering the Heat. And I love Tyler Hero. I think he's more of an all-star than an all-NBA player. I think Emmanuel Quickly's more of a six-man than a starter. And RJ Barrett, the jury's out on there. But that's the thing is, I've always said I think Cam Thomas should get Malik Monk money. I think Cam Thomas could be one of the best six-mans in the league. But this is hard. It's a hard situation. I personally think if you're the Nets, instead of giving him the qualifying offer, let's do business. Let's give you a 1 year deal, $20 million, bring you back. And that's what I think is going to happen. And that's kind of what's going on. And then we go into next offseason because you're not getting offers right here. People don't have money to offer you. We'll go into next offseason and we can redo business there. Once you start getting offers, you can leave. But you get $20 million this year instead of the qualifying offer. So you don't get stuck making, below $10 million. And you get to go test your value again next offseason when you're an unrestricted free agent. That way, we don't get stuck with the no trade clause, which will make it harder for us to trade you. And I think that's potentially one of the best things that they could do to make this situation better than it currently is. So I understand that it's not ideal. It's not a situation that if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, by the way, if you see me looking down, that's like why I have the second screen just to make sure that we're saying everything. But I think when you look at everything that's going on this team, Cam Thomas walking for nothing at this point would be more devastating in the sense that you'd be losing him uncompensated when he could be someone that pops off and you could get compensation for him down the road as something that could have been prevented if that were to happen. So there's just nothing to lose to keep him if you can keep him to that minimum deal and tell him, look, we'll pay you this year, 1 year, a lot of money, maybe even overpay you. Next year, we'll figure it out. So what do we want? What do we know? They got themselves that unprotected first, and they got themselves man. They drafted 5 first-round prospects. That was weird, okay? And I need to do something about the spacing right here because the spacing doesn't look good in my opinion, but that's for a future note. So to me, when I look at this, the big picture takeaways, in my opinion, were that the front office was able to take Cam Johnson, get a first-round pick in Michael Porter Jr., who then they could maybe even flip Michael Porter Jr. down the road for several second-round picks. Or if he becomes amazing, super efficient, looks like a brand-new player, not swing the rock, Porter, then maybe they do get a pick. And another unprotected one, especially that this one's unprotected in 2032. Ooh, baby. Terrence Mann is another guy who they could really benefit, that he could end up becoming someone that teams really want. Could get fetching them either a young player, draft capital, and just stuff to help fuel this rebuild. They drafted 5 prospects, 3 of them being guards, 1 being a big, and the other being a wing. I'm fine with Danny Wolf, Drake Powell. I actually like Egor Demin. He was supposed to be a wonder kid. He was the best prospect since Luka Doncic in Real Madrid's youth academy. So I'm not worried. I think that was a good pick. Ben Zaref and Nolan Traoré, you could argue that they were the best players available where they were. That's kind of thing. And they're still negotiating with Cam Thomas. They don't want to overpay and lose cap flexibility. I understand that. So just pay him a 1-year deal that pays him a bunch of money, and let's go back to the negotiation table next year. So that's how I would look at this year's offseason. It's an interesting one. Sets up things. I think they're still trying to tank because next year's draft class is good. The following year's draft class is bad. So if you made it to the end of the video, you should hit that like and subscribe button. It'll help out the channel a ton.